same stitch. The third stitch using the loop is called blanket stitch or buttonhole stitch, and it's going to look, when it's finished, something like this. So you can either call it blanket stitch or buttonhole stitch, and this is how you do it. First of all, again, you come out from the back with your double thread, your double knot, sorry. Then you loop the stitch around, and what we're trying to do, if we show you here, is create a backwards L, an L facing backwards each time. So imagine on the fabric you're drawing a back L, the small length of the L comes here and then the other part there. So to create that, we put the needle in opposite where we came out and bring it through to make the L. You continue again, the next stitch up to the top, out in the center corner, and pull it through. So this is very simple buttonhole thread, or buttonhole stitch rather. So I'll continue this to the end and you'll see the effect that it creates. Sometimes you can make your buttonhole stitches a little bit closer together, as I'm doing here. And sometimes you can make them very, very long and skinny. Again, it's entirely up to you, and this is where on your dream catcher you can vary your designs. So we've got some very short, thin ones close together, tall, thin ones, and then we can go back to our original size. Final stitching, we put one in now, take it to the back. Remember, you've always got to do a small stitch to secure the final loop, to the back, and finish off. And then label your stitching buttonhole. The places that we've used buttonhole on our dream catchers are here. I've done a red buttonhole graduating into black, and then come back the other direction into where I started. Here's another one, and we've also used it all the way around the outside on this dream catcher, the buttonhole stitch. We've also used buttonhole stitch on here. Can you see where I've used it? It's at the bottom, at the 3 circles here, where I've outlined the circle and brought the little stitches in from the outside. Here I've done it alternate. I've done a L going this way and an L going that way, so it looks a bit spiky. And on this final example, I have used it on the headdress here, and I've used it all the way around in yellow around the edge. The last stitch I'm going to show you how to do is called French knot. It's the most difficult stitch, but again, it does use loops to create the stitch. So coming up from underneath with your double knot. Now this is very difficult. I am left-handed, all right, and I would hold the needle in my left hand. If you're right-handed, you hold the needle in your right hand, and you take the thread over the needle, not under it like this, but over the needle once, twice, 3 times. You pull the thread now back, and if you notice, that's holding the stitches on the needle. Take the needle through to the back of the fabric, pull this tight, hold it, and pull it through. And as you pull it through, you create the knot. So this will take a lot of watching, so watch again carefully. Pull the needle through. I'll do it right hand again. So you put the needle in your right hand, you hold the thread like this, and you go once, twice, 3 times over the needle, and if I'm not careful they can all fall off. So you have to pull the thread back and into the fabric. Pull it tight once you've got your needle through, and then pull the thread to make the knot. Now French knots look best if there's a little huddle of them, so I'm going to put another one here. I'm going to show you this time what to do if you're left-handed. You hold it in your left hand and you put the thread over once, twice, 3 times. Again you pull it back with your right hand, put the needle through to the back of the fabric, make sure it's halfway, okay, pull it tight and then pull the needle through. And those are French knots. Now there's one variation. You can make the knot bigger, and the way in which you do that is go round the needle more. So if I want to go round the needle say 6 times, I should have a bigger knot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Still pull it back and push it through. Get it halfway through front and back, as you can see, and now pull it through and you get a larger knot. So that's French knots, and when you go to the back there's no real stitch to go through at the back very easily, so find the last stitch that you can and go through 2 knots, and cut off. And the last thing you do is write French knot, K-N-O-T, and those are your 8 stitches: running stitch, back stitch, cross stitch, herringbone stitch, fly stitch, chain stitch, buttonhole stitch, and French knot. And as you can see, if you don't start right at the top of your fabric with your running stitch, you'll run out of space at the bottom for the French knot. And those are the 8 stitches that I'd like you to use, as many of those on your dream catcher. So finally, let's have a look to see where French knots have been used. On this one, we have lots of 6 French knots here, so 6 times around the needle, because they're very big and bold French knots. We have some French knots here, showing again how many have we got? 7 French knots, again big French knots, so they show up really well in a contrasting colour. Here we've got contrasting little tiny red, little tiny just 3 times around the needle for these. And lastly, we have some large knots here, and you can see that they really do look very effective if there's lots and lots of little knots bunched close together.